Hello and welcome to Hollywood at Home from Arizona Public Media. I'm Victoria Lucas. Tonight's movie is director Francis Ford Coppola's 1988 biographical drama, Tucker, the Man and His Dream, starring Jeff Bridges, Martin Landau, and Joan Allen. It's the real-life story of a maverick car designer with a revolutionary new concept and his ill-fated attempt to challenge the American automotive industry. Preston Tucker was an engineer with a passion for design and manufacturing. During World War II, his invention of a new kind of gun turret for Air Corps bombers saved countless lives. After the war, he saw an American public eager to buy new cars, but the problem was there were none to be had. The big three Detroit automakers hadn't designed any new models since 1941 and now appeared to be in no hurry to catch up. But Tucker had an idea he believed would make people very, very happy, and he was in a hurry. He thought he could beat the big three at their own game. Rather than just create a more modern version of a pre-war car, he set about designing what he called a safety car for the future. Nicknamed the Tucker Torpedo for its radical styling, it would include state-of-the-art features like a rear-mounted engine, disc brakes, seat belts, a roll bar within the roof, and a center headlight that would rotate left or right when steering at angles greater than 10 degrees to improve visibility around corners at night. Cool stuff for 1946. Francis Coppola had been introduced to the Tucker sedan prototype at the age of 8 when he went with his father to a Car of Tomorrow exhibition. His dad was so impressed with Tucker's design and his promise to create an affordable car for all Americans that he invested $5,000 in the new company. And Francis couldn't wait to ride around beside him in this amazing new car. But as so often happens, Tucker's dream soon collided with reality in the form of the big three automakers and their political influence. Young Francis was bitterly disappointed, and he vowed that someday, somehow, he would tell the story of this man and his machine. Coppola grew up to become part of the first generation of directors to hone their talents in film schools rather than working their way up on Hollywood sound stages. He studied acting and playwriting as an undergraduate, then earned a master's degree in filmmaking at UCLA. Over the following 25 years, Coppola directed and often wrote major hits and expensive flops. He co-wrote Patton in 1970, winning the first of his 5 Oscars. Later that decade, he directed 3 of the most honored and profitable movies of all time: The Godfather, Godfather Part 2, and Apocalypse Now. Coppola chafed at what he felt was a too rigid and bureaucratic Hollywood studio system, so he created his own production and distribution company, Zoetrope Pictures, to bypass the studios. But hits began to prove elusive, and Coppola soon found himself saddled with debt after presiding over a series of mediocre films and a few notable box office failures. Yet through it all, he never forgot his Tucker vow, as he tried different approaches to the story, even considering Tucker the musical at one point. But by 1987, Zoetrope was mired in financial difficulty, and it looked like the project would have to be shelved permanently. Until a white knight rode to the rescue. Coppola's friend George Lucas signed on to produce the film and cover the budget as repayment for the same favor that Coppola had done for him on American Graffiti. With the financing finally in place, Coppola could turn his attention to casting. He knew he needed an actor for the title role who could embody both the dreamer and the schemer in Preston Tucker. He found his star in Jeff Bridges, who gives a brash but sympathetic performance as the dauntless underdog, eager to launch his own brand, a man who believes wholeheartedly in the American dream. Coppola then cast Martin Landau, against his usual bad guy type, to play the New York financier turned friend who has to deal with his partner's antics, a performance that earned Landau an Oscar nomination. Joan Allen plays Tucker's loving and supportive wife, and you may spot 17-year-old Christian Slater as Tucker's eldest son. Oh, also, keep your eyes open for Lloyd Bridges, Jeff's father, in an uncredited appearance as a nasty Michigan senator. Next, to get the visual style he wanted for the film, Coppola chose cinematographer Vittorio Storaro, who had worked with him on Apocalypse Now, and as production designer, he joined forces again with Dean Talavares, who had created the memorable sets for both of Coppola's Godfather movies. Knowing that logistical issues would, for the most part, prevent scenes from being shot in script order, Coppola assembled his cast for 2 weeks of intense rehearsals prior to filming, during which the actors could develop their characters and fine-tune their performances. This culminated with a full run-through of the entire script, which Coppola photographed and edited on videotape, to give himself and the actors a sort of preview of the movie. In addition, Jeff Bridges worked closely with the Tucker family, spending hours talking with them and studying home movies. Tucker's son, John, said, "Jeff really got my father's look and his mannerisms. My dad was very positive, always thinking about what comes next, and Jeff captures that." Principal photography began in April 1987 in a vacant Ford factory in Richmond, California, with later location sequences filmed across the bay in Sonoma. Shooting went smoothly, except for when Jeff Bridges broke his right hand in a scene where the frustrated Tucker punches a large bulletin board. After a trip to the hospital, where he was fitted with a removable cast, Bridges came back to play the scene again. As he remembered, "This time I almost broke my left hand. I was so pleased and relieved that Francis didn't fire me on the spot." Filming wrapped after 13 weeks in July 1987, and a month later, Lucas convinced Paramount Pictures to distribute the film and cover most of the production budget. Tucker's reception among reviewers was consistently positive, though the movie was not a box office success in its original release. Over the years, however, audiences have discovered the film and recognize its importance. And finally, about the cars seen in the movie, of the 51 Tucker sedans built in 1948, 47 remained during filming in 1987, the majority of them still roadworthy. Members of the Tucker Automobile Club of America lent 21 of their cars to the production, where they were used extensively, both as set dressing and as action vehicles. There is a car crash scene, but it is not a real Tucker. Instead, it was a Studebaker modified to look like a Tucker. So now please sit back. Don't forget to fasten your brand new seatbelt and enjoy the movie that shares much of Preston Tucker's exuberance and all of his love for pie in the sky. From 1988, it's Francis Ford Coppola's Tucker, A Man and His Dream.